I said this when the big event happened regarding Newcastle. All I know is that Middle Eastern ownership models and the Saudis, they don't do second and they definitely don't do third. I said at the time, obviously it's not on record. I don't think we was doing the podcast at the time. I thought they'd win the Premier League within 5 years. And looking at the trajectory with the manager they have and the footballers they've signed already without Champions League football, going into a summer window with Champions League football, with a stadium like they have, with fans like they have everything. Newcastle United have everything it takes to win the Premier League next season. I think they're going to go into this summer window. I think they're going to sign 5 or 6 players of an ilk that wins league titles because they can. Because it's hard to say. It's hard to really express this quote. I don't mean this in terms of recent history and managers and things like this. They have everything that a modern footballer would want, just as much as Man City now. They have the promise of wealth. They can distribute the wealth in many ways. They're not stupid. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to get nailed like City have. Obviously, that's going to take a long time. I think they're smart. They're smarter than that, and they've known what not to do from the get-go since they bought the club. I think they're going to sign 5 or 6 players this summer that really take that step up, because they're not far off. They finished 3rd this season. Obviously, they weren't near winning the league. I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm going to say they're going to be in a fight. Newcastle United will be in a fight for the Premier League next season, and I genuinely believe that.
I think you're right. I think you're right, and I think I agree with everything you're saying. I think they've got everything they need, and that's why I kind of what I was saying before about the difference between like Newcastle and the likes of Brighton. Even though I take what you're saying about Brighton, I think it is right. Mm-hmm. Newcastle they did fall down for a few years, but they've always been a powerhouse club. We did a segment with Dom a while ago about what would be your top 20 teams. Like if you said the ultimate Premier League 20, Newcastle have a cemented place in that top 20.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, they are a Premier League team. Even when they had a few seasons away, there's no like. So I think you're right. I do wonder do you think the ambitions of the club? But like you said, do you think the ambitions of the club, not next season necessarily, but do you think they'll get beyond Eddie Howe?
It's a tough question, isn't it? Because Eddie Howe can't really be judged in a title contending team because he's never been there, has he? He's got Bournemouth up divisions. He knows what it takes to win divisions. Of course he does, but at the highest level, not yet. But saying that, he's just managed to get Newcastle. I'd love to know how involved him and Jason Tindall are in the transfers. I'd love to know, because obviously when it comes to an ownership model like that, you know, they're going to want to be involved because they want to know what they're putting the money into and how it's going to be, because they need success and they need it now. I'd love to know if he has been majorly involved in these signings. I'd love to think that he is as well, because you know he's put together a football team. They're not even big, like Dan Burn plays left back. You know what I mean? And there's no disrespect. He's been superb this year, and he's going to be a Champions League player next season. But you look at the players, you think, well, I would never have thought of him. They're doing it right, and they're getting results quick. When Newcastle United were 19th last season, haven't won a game in 10, Eddie Howe comes in, and obviously keeps them up in the end. Does really? I think he finished top half or so. I can't remember. But he did
to be fair, I remember he did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the time when that ownership was announced, and they were where they were, and Eddie Howe came in replacing Steve Bruce, did you think? What would you have said if I said they would be a Champions League team next season?
I would have laughed you off the podcast.
Even with the money.
I would have laughed you off.
Yeah.
I would have laughed you off.
They've got, from that point, stayed up, did well, started this season, and you can see the quality of player has started to increase, hasn't it? You know, you're getting your Bruno Guimaraes, you're getting your Alexander Isak now. It's not your Dan Burns and your Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier is unreal, but it's a different level now, isn't it? And I feel like that's only going to improve. And they're going to, I don't think they're going to go daft. I don't think they have yet gone daft. And they won't need to this summer. But what they will need this summer is a squad, because they've never had to compete with, European football through a season. So they need numbers and they need rotation. And they've got everything they need to do that. So my hot take is that, I don't want to say they will, because I'm not sure, but I think they're going to be in that title race for a long period next season, and might even go and do it.
Well, can I ask you the opposite question then? Because I think we've done a really good thing now. I think that's a great bit on Newcastle. Is there a genuine team you think is going to struggle next year? Struggle beyond their means, or like not even going to last? Because I think there's a couple of teams who I don't think are going to do great.
For me, it all goes on this summer window and keeping your assets, because I think this is a real changing of the guard summer. I think West Ham will go down next season, because I think Declan Rice holds that team together more than any of us could possibly comprehend.
I think you've got a good shout there. Yeah,
I think West Ham will struggle massively, and obviously, it's a fairy tale ending with a European final. Hopefully they go. I'd love them to go and win that, to be honest. But I think he'll go, and I think they'll struggle massively. Probably go down. In terms of, it's tough with struggling, isn't it? Because it all does go off the players, doesn't it? And the players that they sign. It's Arsenal need a big window, because I know they've finished second this year, but if we're talking flukes, I think the closest one to a fluke coming off this season is Arsenal for me, because they've played brilliantly and they're a young squad, but something like that happening to you as a unit so early in your time as a team, bottling a title like that, could have catastrophic effects. And I think unless they sign Declan Rice and Caicedo as rumoured, that would be, wow, that makes them, contenders.
Yeah.
If they don't, and they struggle in the market and they miss out on the top signings, I think they'll struggle to make top four, which sounds mental, doesn't it? But you've got to look at the seasons that teams are having this season to really see what Arsenal did. Arsenal forget City. Arsenal came against a Man United team that was inconsistent for a long period, managed to put it together towards the end. A Liverpool team that was nowhere near it for half a season, then fancied it. A Chelsea team that just didn't fancy it. And a Spurs team that was so inconsistent. You name all those teams and you put them as having good seasons. Where are Arsenal? They're right in amongst it with all those teams. If on a normal season as it goes, Liverpool finished second. Manchester United are always in amongst it. Newcastle in the mix. So they did brilliantly well, don't get me wrong, but it was also in one of those seasons. I always take it back to the Leicester season when Leicester won the league. And Spurs were all over it, and Arsenal, ended up finishing second in the end. But no one else was properly at it. And it feels like one of those seasons for me. It's been a very dull season in many ways, with few highlights personally. But so I think West Ham and I think Arsenal. What about you?
Okay. I think a team that, just because I've got it off shot here, I've got a copy of the Premier League table just to remind myself of a few things. And a team that kind of fascinates me really, living in this city. And I'm sure you can guess where I'm going. Living in this city, and obviously one half is one colour, the colour red, and the other half is blue. And the blue contingent, funny enough for me, I remember, and this sounds really horrible, but I'm dead truthful, when they survived the drop, and I get it, it's a relief. Loads of Everton fans, I'm friends and follow loads of Everton fans online, and they're showing relief, saying this is our club, this is strong character. And I'm thinking, I don't want to swear, but bugger me, like brand new stadium on the horizon. Everton, we're talking about Everton Football Club here. What the hell has happened to them? They're celebrating getting out of relegation. I said to my mate who's an Everton fan, I said, I get it. And like I said, as a Spurs fan, there's nothing to be proud of there. You escaped relegation as one of the most, talk about consistent Premier League, nailed on, cemented Premier League teams. Everton, they've lost their heads. So the fact that I understand, of course, it's a relief they escaped relegation, because it was looking like a very, very, very real possibility up
I
until the
think it was
last
like
day.
what was it? The 70th minute they were down, and then that beautiful a
but
Decore screamer keeps them up, doesn't it?
But what I'm saying is that I think for me, as a hot take, I think a team that I do think will struggle is Everton, because if they are celebrating that with what their ambitions should be, with what is apparently, I've looked at some of the plans and gone and seen it firsthand, is going to be a beautiful stadium.
Yeah,
like
looks it.
I'm not being funny. If any team should be really worrying, it's them. They have nothing to like. There's nothing to take away from this season apart from surviving relegation. Like you say, with 10 minutes to go or 20 minutes to go, that's laughable. So I think Everton, if they don't pull their socks up, they're in trouble. Real trouble.
I think the real trouble with Everton going forward as well is this potential points deduction that will be next season. -6 is the talk. And the worry is, if that happens, teams like Leicester and Leeds are going to be looking at it saying, hang on, this was ages ago. Why didn't it happen last season? So one of us could have stayed up. And it just creates a big wormhole of, yes, if, buts, maybes and all this. But I think with Everton, it's a culture thing with Everton. And I'm not saying this as a Liverpool fan. I take no real pleasure in it because I sat with Evertonians on Sunday and sat right next to him in the club, in my local. And it was horrible to watch him, really. And then when Leicester scored the 2 goals, and it just kept coming up on the bottom of the screen, Everton are red. And it sunk. It hit me then. Because all season I've been joking about, get him down, all this, thinking it would be funny. And I watched it and I saw it in the flesh there on the screen. I was like, nah, that's not right. That's not right. And then, so it got towards the end and I was actually quite happy that they managed to do it, and what a goal to do it. But it's a culture thing with Everton because what's going on at that football club from the top, nothing's going to change while that's the case. It's like Spurs in a way. You look at Spurs and what they're doing with Daniel Levy. When there's something between the board and the fans like that, it's very hard to make your home ground a nice place to go to for your team, obviously. Somewhere where an atmosphere can be created. It needs to be a complete unit. That's what managers like Pep and Klopp do so well. And Eric Ten Hag now to a point, they make it all about us. It's us. We're all together and we're all going to go against the opposition. We're going to win this game, or we'll go again if we don't, and things like this. What's going on at Everton? They're properly protesting at all times about this board. And thankfully for them, it looks like it's probably going to go through soon and they're going to sell the club and they're going to leave. Until that happens, they are never going to get out of this. They're going to be fighting like this forever. And one season, it's not going to be enough. I really thought this season it wasn't going to be enough, but the freak Brighton result changed that. But it's really tough with Everton because, like you say, I like competing with Everton. I like the games being tough games and not them fighting for relegation. I like beating them and knowing that it's going to affect their season, as in getting Europe or something like that. I remember we won the Champions League. We finished 5th and Everton finished 4th. So you look at that for a fall from grace. But it's not like Moshiri hasn't spent the money. He just spent it like a fool, and he spent it on the wrong people. But like you say, stayed in the Premier League, new stadium, a great manager, Sean Dyche, and now he's got a summer to really change his fortunes, and hopefully they don't get a points deduction and things like that, because that's the last thing they need with how the last 2 years have gone from in the Premier League. But it's definitely a fair shout with Everton. It's hard to see the sunshine over the hill, isn't it, with Everton at the minute?
If you like what you've just seen there and you want to see more content like this, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TalkNonsensePod.